COVID testing will again be mandatory from tomorrow for all travellers coming to Australia from China as COVID cases surge in that country. Some in the university sector are making the case for those restrictions to be short-lived. Joining me now is Regional Universities Network Chair Professor Nick Klomp. How are you this afternoon, Professor?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very well indeed. So what are your thoughts on these mandatory testings as of tomorrow?
Yes, look, I don't think it's going to slow down the number of Chinese students wanting to come to Australia. Their commitment to study in Australia is huge and is over many years. So I think the requirement to get a COVID test prior to coming to Australia is a small hurdle and I think quite reasonable. I don't expect it to be a major hurdle for students coming back from China to study in Australia.
What is the percentage, Professor, of students coming to Australia from China and other areas across the country?
Yeah, no, look,
the world, I should say.
That's really interesting that they ask because it has changed since COVID. It's about 38% of all our international students are from China, and that's equal to about 38% of the students coming from South Asia. So that's India and Nepal and Sri Lanka and Pakistan and Bangladesh and others in the subcontinent. About the same, about 38% each. Now, Southeast Asia, China particularly, was a lot more than that. It was about 6% more pre-COVID. So the COVID restrictions in China and the ability to move around and to come to Australia has reduced that market a little bit, but still a major part of the market for higher education, that export from Australia around the world. International students from around the world come here.
What is the big attraction for overseas students to come to Australia?
Yeah, we do it really well. And I can say that in all modesty. We were, pre-COVID, we were about the third largest provider of higher education in the world. Third to at the time, America and Britain, I think. We were just about to pass Britain before COVID hit. So we do it well. We've got really great standards. We know that you get an Australian qualification and you know you can take that qualification and it'll be recognised around the world. So we maintain the standards, we welcome people, we do it well. And good on Australia for that, because typically pre-COVID we had about 450,000 international students studying onshore in Australia. That is a huge export. I know it seems strange to call it an export, but it is an export of knowledge. That's a huge export. It's one of the top 5 in Australia and the top service export of any other industry. It's just worth billions of dollars to Australia. It's non-polluting. It's good for soft diplomacy and relationships between governments and countries. Why wouldn't you support something like that? I think it's really important for Australia.
Yeah, well said. And give us an idea, Professor, of how many universities you look after, and I know you look after quite a few in the regions as well, and how this is going to also look after our working situation for the regions and for the capital cities.
Yeah, look, that's a great question, because a lot of people think that, you know, I'm the Vice-Chancellor of Seeker University, so perhaps I'm just talking about how I can get international students into my university, or I'm the chair of the Regional University Network. That's about 7 universities spread around Australia. But I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about how important it is for the regions of Australia and the whole of Australian economy. We are desperate for workforce. And prior to COVID, people perhaps were wondering, you know, how many international students do we have and are they taking our jobs? Boy, did we have it wrong. We realise now that we need these students to come and study. We need them to get qualified with Australian qualifications, because honestly, we can't fill the positions in the skilled workforce requirements in Australia more generally, and it's particularly desperate in the regions. Now, regionally in Australia, we have about 3% of all the international students study in the region. So, you know, 13,000 students of a typical year. We need them because they take part-time jobs and they're studying with us, and it's great for the regions. It's great for the cultural and social fabric of our communities. But we also really need to encourage them to stay, if they possibly will, with their Australian qualifications, because we need them to take on the jobs as nurses, as doctors, as engineers, as accountants, the whole gamut of workforce. We're desperate for them in the regions.
Oh, I love your enthusiasm. It makes me want to go back to university.
Never too late.
No, you
So
can always keep
nowadays, people
studying.
just study for the rest of their lives, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we never stop learning, do we? But what about online learning when, we were in lockdown and obviously we're still going through the pandemic, but over the last few years?
Yeah, there's been another very interesting implication from COVID. Some parts of the world didn't recognise online learning as valuable. They didn't recognise the quality. Now, Australia has been doing online learning for 50 years, and because we've got such high standards and such checking mechanisms, we know that our students have come up with a degree and they've studied online or in mixed mode or face-to-face. It doesn't make any difference at all. We know their quality. We know they've met the standards, but other countries have been slow to recognise that. But COVID has forced everyone at home, and suddenly they've had to adapt and adopt different techniques. So gradually, the rest of the world is catching up to what Australia can provide. Our online offerings are very, very good. We have got techniques to know that it's you doing it and not your smart sister or your smart brother doing the assignments, and we know the quality is there as well. And in Australia, of course, recognised by all the industries, accredited by all the authorities and professional groups around Australia. So we've got a lot to offer in that space, and the rest of the world was just a little bit hesitant to move in that area, but I think COVID's taught them a lesson or two. So we've got, there's some opportunities for Australia to even increase that export opportunity in that space.
All right, great to chat to you. We have to wrap it up there, but Professor Nick Klomp, see you soon.
Thank you. See you later, Jane.